We met on a train almost 30 years ago, a train that did not go anywhere. We were going for our officers' training at LIC in Chennai, and then we had to use an auto, a bus, and then finally a train to get there.
But what brought us together was a strong social bond. We were moved by social causes. Vedatai's Narmada Bachao Andolan inspired us both. But we were committed to our jobs, and I had a son to bring up.
And mid-career, I decided to go abroad to do my MBA in the US. Devi moved to Infosys. Within a couple of years, we were in the US, living the American dream, a nice MNC job as a fund manager. We learned to drive for the first time and bought our first car and just settling down to a comfortable life when our social bond poked us again.
I started volunteering with local nonprofits. Then I did my master's in sociology and started working with a farmer group in Kentucky. Farmer suicides and agrarian distress in the US are not talked about much, but small farmers have been almost eliminated in the US. I also noticed how food was so cheap and obesity was rampant.
And I went through a health setback at that time, in my mid-30s. It was shocking because I have always been very careful with what I ate. I was a vegetarian, a teetotaler.
That is when I started looking at the food system. I learned about the damage chemicals and excessive processing can do to our health, about genetic modification of food. I started appreciating the importance of organic food, devoid of chemicals, minimally processed whole foods, and no GMO.
So here I was living a double life, working with high street finance during the day and having epiphanies about our food system in the evenings. Devi did all the research, and I copied her notes, so I learned a lot from her.
It's not the notes he copied, actually he just watched the videos.
Right.
That is when I decided, on having our own organic farm. I wanted to do farming, and that too organically. And we bought a farm near Coimbatore.
It was our dear friend Raja, who was based in Coimbatore, who bought it for us. Otherwise, we had no roots in Coimbatore whatsoever. So within a few years, we left the US and we came back to India. I continued with my corporate job, and while she continued to work with the NGOs in India as a food and environmental activist.
In India, it was such an eye-opener. I came across this whole movement promoting organic food, hundreds of groups, farmer groups, consumer initiatives, and we all were at that point working to stop the introduction of BT brinjal, the first genetically modified food which would have been introduced into India, and it was stopped successfully.
And I watched all this as a bystander, a sympathizer, a supporter, but not actively involved. Because I had a job to care about, and we needed the job to pay for the farm and later the house we bought in Coimbatore. So it was then that we moved to Netherlands, staying with the same company. But before that, it was in India where I had a fantastic learning about food and health through the Health Awareness Center in Mumbai. Learning about naturopathy, where I gave up on tea and coffee, I gave up on white sugar, dairy, and I also learned from Nandita Shah of Sharan. And I became a vegan with spectacular results on my health.
We also argued a lot in the process. Then after that, when we moved to Europe, it was a huge eye-opener for us. Europe was like a completely new thing. We learned how consumers like us can make a big difference by not only eating healthy and cooking at home, but also demanding change from retailers and governments. I shopped at the weekly local organic farmers market, buying heritage wheats, appreciating wild source greens, mushrooms. It was just fantastic.
And I finally quit my double life and came back to India for good in 2013 with the intention of starting a social venture of our own, helping the cause of organic farming and organic food.
I came back with the idea of farming, and we farmed for about a year and a half. Groundnuts, sesame, moong, urad, millets, tried everything. But at the same time, we also used to talk to our neighbors, the farmers, neighboring farmers, and ask them to go organic, stop using chemicals. And they told me, look, farming is a hobby for you, but for us, it's our livelihood.
And I started traveling in India, meeting folks that Devi has been working with for almost 10 years now. farmers, farmer groups, and organic farming gurus, NGOs, organic retailers even, and wondering how to help.
And we had by then met Sundaramanaya, an organic farming guru. Even then, then in his 70s, now in his late 70s. And he had a very strong role in having popularized organic farming among many farmers, thousands of them possibly. I asked him what we can do to help, maybe raise funds for training farmers, build the training facilities. And he told us no. There's no need for further training or anything. They know what to do. The farmers know what to do. Why don't you create a market for them? That's what they need.
And that was an aha moment for us. And we decided to launch a social venture that will work to create a market among urban consumers like all of us for organic produce. And that is what became Biobasic. So it's a long story, but that was a journey. And for the first time in my life, what I did professionally and what I believed personally finally merged and was in perfect alignment.
So personally, we have now been organic for over 15 years. And now, in addition, we are also working to promote organic whole foods, working with organic farmers, working with consumers, and hopefully we are helping the environment.